All right, day two. I guess Daily Dimitri, TCE a dish. I'm going to talk to you. Well, I guess hold on. First things first. I just want to thank everybody for their kind remarks and reaching out. I really appreciate Tina Patterson. Shout out Meryl, Matt Sikoria, the whole TCE community. What a blessing to have people who get it, who want to be involved and participate in the process, and just like want to engage and are actually going to find value in this. I've been thinking about what I should be talking about today, and there's so many things that can be targeted as we go through this process. I'm going to focus on one specific piece and one specific aspect for the time being, and that is perseverative behavior. Now, what do I mean by perseverative behavior? I mean obsession. I mean rigid, repetitive, ritualistic, self-stimulatory verbal behavior of the covert kind, or private, of the private persuasion, if you will, which means like self-talk, man. Negative self-talk, negative self-doubt. I guess all self-doubt is negative, so that's kind of redundant, but I'm talking about just fear, anxiety, all those things that we fail to operationalize appropriately, and we just dismiss a lot of the time as constructs, even though they cause us emotional pain and distress. Listen, I'm not some kind of guru in this stuff, and I'm not going to pretend like I'm the most well-versed person in these things, but I'm going to focus on, I am actively trying to analyze my own behavior and put it in terms that I think is useful and fits within a behavior analytic framework. So come along for the ride, and if you think I'm wrong, please tell me. If you have better strategies, or if you have other strategies people can use, please share them. So back to the thing. Verbal self-stimulatory, rigid, repetitive, verbal self-stimulatory behavior. A couple of components of that, I think, too, that why I think this matters is that it's self-injurious in nature. Like, you're harming yourself. You're hurting yourself. So you need to identify that this is, even though you're not causing yourself to bleed, you're causing emotional gashes. You're lashing yourself over and over again with all the what ifs and all those other things that are going on through your head. So the real question is, what do you do to target these things? How do you intervene on this stuff? How do you do it? It's so hard to do when you're trying to do things for yourself. And this is what I'm going to tell you. It is really hard. It's going to be super hard to follow through with it regularly, but it's still a pretty simple process from what I can think about, because I just put it in the same context that I would put everything else. How do I intervene on other people's behavior when I've identified it as rigid, repetitive, self-stimulatory behavior? Well, response, interruption, redirection, and replacement. Those are going to be your 3 R's for the day. Response, interruption, redirection, and replacement. How do we go about doing this? Well, first and foremost, above everything, I would say get an accountability buddy, just from a functional perspective. My accountability buddies are Ryan. I already called Ryan this morning. First thing, my mom, actually, my wife, and a really good friend of mine, actually, who are people that I can trust that will tell me the truth. And they'll set me straight if I'm starting to kind of like devolve into a repetitive, self-injurious verbal mess. Okay, where it's like, oh, what have I done? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know why this is happening to me, blah, 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 whatever. Stop it. So you need to have somebody who can say that to you, look you in the eye, and I'm going to say, I'll be this person for you in this instance and say this. It's fine. Stop it. You didn't do it. Shit happens. Life's hard. Crazy things happen, and no one anticipated a global pandemic that would literally change the face of the economy in the world. So take a deep breath, relax, and just ride this thing out for a minute. It's not you, it's reality. It's viral, if you will. Now, that's step one. Get people you trust and you believe in to tell you the truth. Okay, it has to be that way. And the big thing about that is that, like, I'm not talking about cheerleaders. Cheerleaders are fine, but cheerleaders are candy. Cheerleaders are going to tell you everything's okay, but that's not very helpful. Okay, that cheerleading, that kind of is telling you how things are going to be okay, and just not reassurance and ongoing and continuous reassurance. That's candy. That's sugar, The truth, on the other hand, that's broccoli. That's vegetable. So I'm telling you to eat your veggies. Eat your vegetables. Eat your broccoli. Take the truth in and recognize it. And you want to have somebody who can be harsh, They can be direct with you. They can be honest with you, and they can help you kind of catch yourself. Because when you're in that panic state, it's kind of very difficult to kind of ease out of it. And personally, I'm not the kind of person who responds to very like gentle transitions. I need somebody who can just, jar me out. So step 1, accountability buddy who will tell you the truth. Step 2, be behavior analytic, man. Follow a conceptually systematic behavioral process. If we're behavior analysts and we're trying to like analyze our own behavior and act on our own behavior change, then we need to do it. We need to follow our own process. Take your own good advice. I was told that yesterday. I was like, yeah, take your own good advice, man. So what does that look like? Well, first identify and define the harmful verbal behavior that you're engaging in. What are you doing? What are you saying to yourself? Oh man, I'm so worthless. Oh man, I feel so alone. Why is this happening to me? Oh man, if you would just 8 years ago on this Tuesday, if you would have just made this one move, none of this sequence of things, chain events would have happened. Define those things. Define whatever it is for you, define it. Next is engage in some type of a interruptive strategy. Okay? So just like any other type of behavior that you're saying like that, of self-stimulatory nature, right? Response interruption. What does that look like? Well, for me, I think an attention signal. I've already done it in the video a couple times, but it's that. I literally will snap at myself. Now, it seems a little bit weird and it seems a little bit out there, but I think we're in desperate times call for desperate interventions. I don't really think it's that weird, especially if you're using it as a coping mechanism and a coping tool. And it's an overt action that helps bring an auditory stimulus, a physical stimulus, and it helps create a certain contextual alertness in the environment that just focuses you to something other than whatever behavior you got going on, whatever verbal behavior you're engaging in. Okay, it brings you present and into the moment. So use an attention signal of some kind, like a snap. Third step, so once you've done that, you're present, you're in the moment, you're here. What do you do now? Well, what do you do with any type of behavior that you're trying to change? Engage in the replacement. That's your step. Engage in the replacement. So what's the replacement behavior? I mean, when we're talking about verbal self-harm or engaging in verbal self-stimulatory behavior, you're going to continue to engage in verbal behavior. So the question is, you're not going to be able to stop verbal behavior. That's ridiculous. That's preposterous. What you can do though is change the words that are being used in the context of that socially mediated personal self-exchange. So change your words. What does it mean to change your words? Well, I would say find a mantra, man. Find a thing that speaks to you. Find a thing that just gets your fire going. Find a thing that if you're saying that to yourself over and over and over and over again, it's getting you in a mindset that's positive, that's empowered, that's moving, that's not permitting that negative self-talk to find its way in. It should be quick, it should be engaging, and you should be a thing that you should be able to do over and over and over and over again. It's funny because I was being told you should be aphovos, okay, which is the Greek word for fearless. Okay, it's aphobia, fearlessness. And what is it to be fearless? What is it to why is that important, and why is that a thing that I've always latched onto, and why does it matter to me? And it's because, what we're really talking about is how do you control and replace fear? So, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, so I'm going to fall back on my nerddoms. I mean, that's my thing. So, what's my nerddom? I mean, science fiction, fantasy, comic books, all that stuff. And Frank Herbert's Dune is one of my favorite series ever. It's the best science fiction series of all time, really, but that is subjective. Not really. It's really amazing. If you haven't read it, highly recommend. But within that, they have this thing called the Bene Gesserit order, and there's this process where it takes place thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of years in the future in a different time, and where technologies and machines and it's wild. But there's this thing called the Litany of Fear that is recited while certain people are going through this transformative process to achieve a certain rank within this particular order. And the Litany of Fear is, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that leads to total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And where it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. And I just say that over and over and over again like a mantra. Even as I just said that, I just got goosebumps. And like I feel emboldened. I feel strengthened. I feel reinforced and prepared to take on whatever's going on and be able to interrupt those negative thoughts. So here's my day 2 challenge to you. Or I guess session 2, whatever we're going to call it. Challenge to you is, what's going on in your head? What are the words you're using to hurt yourself with? And what are the words that you can use to strengthen yourself with? And sit down with a pen and paper and write them down and learn them and memorize them. And then find people who will tell you the truth and who will speak to you in a way that will help you be present of mind and present of self. So that's kind of my spiel for the day. I'll definitely catch you back hopefully tomorrow again, if not as soon as possible. I really appreciate everybody, the kind words, all the reach outs, all the talks, all the messages, DMs, the works. You're the best. Seriously, please keep flooding that. This is becoming more and more encouraging every day, actually, and it's good. Catch you later.